Just want to let you guys hear that bit right there. You know, it's amazing how many different ways they can come up with to redo something very classic that we have heard many times over the years. You just hear it in the background. The classic theme from Warcraft. And they keep coming up with different ways to have it be part of the theme of the expansion in some way, but just a little different. So as you can see, this is our new login screen because today is the day that the War Within pre-patch is going live, though not quite yet. As you can see, it's still not up. You even saw a glimpse of that. The servers are still not up yet. It is... Now, according to that little notice you see at the top left, it won't be up until... It says 5 p.m. Pacific. They'll always take that with a grain of salt, because sometimes they get done before that. Sometimes they get done later than that. Now, I live on the Central Coast time zone, which means that probably means 7 o'clock my time. But I'd like to think they don't usually have to take that long, because sometimes, like I said, they do get done earlier than that. And we're basically just waiting. You'll see a number of streams that say War Within pre-patch waiting room. And, yeah. So that's kind of what some of us are doing. We're sitting here just literally waiting for it to go live. But, yeah. So let me go ahead and turn down the theme. I just wanted to let you guys listen to it for a bit. But, I've heard some people... I saw a glimpse of this courtesy of Wowhead. And, I think what some people were saying in the comments was it would be really cool. I don't know if they actually intend to do this or if they could. They probably could. They just are not really sure. But you notice how... I'd like to hope that as the expansion progresses, that this login screen kind of changes a bit more. Like, as we progress, so does this login screen, you know? Because I just think that would be kind of cool and fitting to really show the steps up that they're taking. This is not just the War Within. This is the beginning of the World Soul Saga, as Metzen put it at BlizzCon. This is how it's going to start. This is the first of a 3-part series known as the World Soul Saga. This is how it's going to begin. Now, technically, this story has already begun in earlier expansions. But, yeah. This is that saga, even though, like I said, it really started... I mean, we could say it started a long time ago. I've had some discussions with some people that we like to discuss, like the story and the lore when it comes to Warcraft. So, when you think about, say... One of the people that I was discussing with this, we were talking about how, you know, if we just remove the story of Battle for Azeroth and Shadowlands entirely, this flows so much better. Now, we could include Dragonflight as kind of a in-between, kind of like... How do I put this? One of those down periods, or like expansions that allows us to kind of like bring, like... come down from the intensity of what we were previously going with. Like, for example, you could say, like, the beginning of Pandaria was kind of one of those periods where it's like, okay, we just dealt with the Cataclysm and Deathwing and the end of the world, and now we go into Pandaria where we get to have kind of a bit of a downtime, a bit of a moment to catch our breath and relax, you know? Of course, then Pandaria kind of ramps up towards the end, where it's like, oh, okay, it does get serious. Here's the thing. Legion was, in my and a lot of people's opinion, an excellent part of the story, and even though it ends on a cliffhanger and such, which we have been waiting for a continuation for a long time, unfortunately, it just felt like both Battle for Azeroth and Shadowlands were just these steps in the story that just were... not what should have happened, or like not what we wanted, and it felt like they were ill-advised steps in the story. And it almost feels like if you inject almost everything from those two out and just go straight, like let's say we have the thing with the Burning Legion, the sword happens, and then Dragonflight happens. Like, would it really be that bad of a thing if we interjected those two and just went straight from Legion to Dragonflight and then into the War Within? Now, if you don't know what I'm talking about, let's watch the War Within cinematic that they showed at BlizzCon, and you guys will see what I mean. Now, imagine that... Okay, so let me real quick say this, though. As much as I have a gripe, and believe me, I have plenty of gripes, and I know lots of other people do, with Shadowlands, also for Battle for Azeroth, but especially with Shadowlands, of the many, many problems and mistakes that they made in that expansion, there is one thing I think they actually did well and I really liked. And that's the stuff with Anduin. The stuff with Anduin and Shadowlands I liked because it also allowed us to kind of go forward into this aspect of his character growth where Anduin, yes, he's gone through a lot. Now, we could say, if we just forget about that stuff and just say he's still dealing with what happened to his father and the hardships of immediately being bolted into the position of being a king of the entire Alliance, not just Stormwind, but the entire Alliance, he could still be dealing with some of the stuff. But at the same time, it does feel like the stuff with him in Shadowlands really does matter. Partly because if you saw my video that I did where I read the short story called The Calling that focused on what Anduin is going through and what he's been doing since the end of Shadowlands, he is still having to deal with the trauma that he had in Shadowlands, which is a good thing. Too many times in fiction, they play off trauma as this like thing you can just kind of get over. And that's just not how it works, especially in real life. You don't get over something incredibly emotionally traumatic like what Anduin went through overnight. This is something that you have to deal with over a long period of time to come to terms with it, try to heal from it, and sometimes you never get over it. Sometimes it's something that will bother you and affect you for the rest of your life. And I'm glad they're showing that it's still affecting Anduin, even though he's trying to deal with it and come to terms with it. It's still something that's probably going to bother him probably for the rest of his life. And I like that. And it really helps show in the cinematic. It also showed in that story. If you haven't seen my video about that story, The Calling, about what Anduin was doing, basically living kind of like Obi-Wan Kenobi on Tatooine. He was living in Kul Tiras kind of by himself, just working a job as an anonymous person, getting some food while he had shelter, just, to live just kind of in isolation. And he has this experience with his family that kind of helps him do a little bit of healing for himself. Not too much, but just a little bit. Where we can see the inner turmoil that's going on with him and what he's struggling with, and he gets a little better, but not entirely. And then he starts to hear this calling from something. He doesn't know what it is, which leads us into the cinematic. Now, we have the other short stories as well, including the one with Thrall that I just recently read for you guys, to also lead into this as well, along with a couple of other stories involving Gazlo, Moira and her son Dagrin. All those short stories are on my channel if you want to go see. But if it wasn't for the stuff with Anduin, especially the traumatic stuff that he went through in Shadowlands, I would say let's try to completely forget about BFA and Shadowlands entirely, and just imagine that we just had Legion, then Dragonflight, War Within, and it would flow so much better. But anyways, let's go ahead and watch this fantastic cinematic. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, why it's so good, feel free to check out some of the reactions that are on YouTube, especially from this couple of other people who are like movie creators and directors and such, that they did like full analysis of those cinematics and talked about just like incredible amounts of excellent detail and work that went into these cinematics, especially this one right here. Let's go ahead and watch it. Oh, let me turn the sound back up. I'm sorry about that.
You're here to tell me we don't get to hide. Is that it?
You needed time. We stayed away. But time by itself heals nothing.
You didn't just come here for me. It's the visions. You've seen them.
I suspect many have lately. Something, someone, is calling out from the heart of the world. Like a voice from a dream. Something dark is coming, Anduin. The world needs your light again. My son.
I am not that person anymore! I have no light. Not after what I've seen. Not after what I've done!
You are not your past, Anduin. I trust you.
Hear me.
They're getting worse. Look, whatever's coming, I'll stand with you. Of course I will. But we were drawn here by the voice. Who is it, Thrall? Who's calling out to us?
I'm not sure yet. But that sword was aimed at someone.
So yeah, that sword. Needless to say, we all had a big reaction when they showed that sword at BlizzCon. Many of us were like, oh, finally! After all these years, they are finally going to acknowledge that sword. Oh, by the way, I want that shirt that Ian wore at BlizzCon at the panel that said, "What sword?" For those of you who don't know, that was a massive meme for a long time. People kept asking about the sword, including, like, Asmongold, in an interview with Ian. He literally asked him about it, and Ian's response to him was, What sword? Because that was the response that they jokingly kept saying, but it was a play on a meme that was being made by the community that we were saying that they seem to be blatantly ignoring this gigantic sword that's just deep into the planet. And we're like, what are we going to do about that sword that's, like, literally in the planet, killing the planet? And they just kept ignoring it in these two expansions. And we were just like, Blizzard is just acting as if, like, they just forgot about that sword being there. They're just like, what sword? The thing is, we kept going back to it in Battle for Azeroth because Magni was like, "Champion, I need you to heal the wounds, to heal Azeroth. You're a champion. You must help heal the wounds." we kept having to go back to mess with our Horde of Azeroth. I know you all remember that. I certainly do. Remember, the pandemic happened during BFA, so we had a lot more time to play BFA and mess with our Horde of Azeroth, especially during the Nyalotha tier. So trust me, we spent a lot of time there. So we were well aware of the sword, because we kept going back to it in Silithus. But it just seemed like Blizzard just kind of kept ignoring it and putting it off through 3 expansions. And then they finally showed this here, and many of us were just like, yes, they're finally acknowledging it. So they played on that, because Blizzard just loves to roll with these things. And that's why Ian wore that shirt, which I'm telling you guys, I want that shirt that says, "What sword?" I just think that was a fantastic shirt. I loved people reacting to it. Asmongold reacted to it, and he was just like, oh, wow, because he knew that Ian was basically trolling him at that point, which I love. I love that so much. It's one of the things I love about Ian. Ian's one of us, and he also has a great sense of humor. Has he made mistakes in the past? Yes, absolutely he has. Has he been stubborn at times? Yes, he has. Shadowlands is a perfect example of that. Ian, and I'm not just blaming Ian here, okay? Ian is not the only one to blame for that. There was a lot of stuff going on with Shadowlands, with that development team, and of course the pandemic happened, but at the same time that we also know about some of the other stuff that was going on. But Ian was, at times, seemingly very stubborn, but I'm sure that wasn't just him, that was also some of the other people involved as well, that were very much wanting to hold on to certain ideas, and like, you know, they really wanted some of these ideas and concepts they had come up with for Shadowlands to work, and they were reluctant to go back on that from our pushback on our, like, but we don't want that, or we thought it was a bad idea, but they insisted that they thought it would be good, and they kept holding it off until, like, towards the end of Shadowlands, so they finally were like, okay, fine, we're going to step back on that. And it's refreshing for them to acknowledge that the ideas and philosophies they had during the time of Shadowlands was a mistake, and they have flipped and kind of, like, embraced that going forward. Where now they have, and I'm going to be showing this in the pre-patch, they are adopting a philosophy of, we want to respect the player's time a whole lot more than we have in the past, and acknowledge how much not only the game has changed, but also how you, the community, have changed, and how times have changed as well. And I appreciate that they are certainly going forward with that, and War Within should be an excellent example and showcase of that, with things such as warbands. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited about showing you guys warbands. Woo, warbands. I'm so excited about that. Of all the features and such that are coming in Shadowlands, in War Within, warbands is absolutely going to be the one I'm most looking forward to, and my favorite at the time of this. I'm also looking forward to hero towns, though some look a little lackluster in comparison to others. But that's something I'm sure that can be worked on and tweaked as the expansion goes on. But warbands representing a whole bunch of stuff that are going to be account-wide stuff. And I'm just like, oh, so you're finally taking a page from the folks who have been working on Diablo, like Diablo 3. Excellent. That's exactly what I was hoping you would do. I'm so happy you guys are finally doing that. Thank you for finally acknowledging that we want more account-wide stuff, that we don't want to have to do stuff on every character. But, you know, what do I know, right? Man. So, I have a bit more time to wait for the servers to go live, and when we do, I will be delving into... Get it? Into the War Within pre-patch, and I will be trying to bring you guys along with me so we can check it out and see all the things that we can do and unlock, since I believe there's going to be an actual quest line to unlock a special warband thing. But yeah, let's just say I'm eagerly waiting for the pre-patch to go live, and I know I'm not alone. So when it goes live, I will be recording that, and welcome to the War Within, and as well as the World Soul Saga. Stay tuned.